Hi, I'm Parker Wiley.
I'm Tim Benjamin.
And this is the Rage Podcast, where today we are going to talk about kind of a more interesting topic for the Rage.
Yes.
But I guess we'll title it or summarize it up at the beginning here, calling the Decline of Intellectualism, all right? And that might not even be a word.
You might not even think we're qualified to talk about this. So
you might, but you know what? We're going to rock with it.
Yeah, there we go.
So I was talking, and I get a lot of these ideas for the Rage from things I've done throughout the last time we filmed. So throughout the week or whatever time frame it is, I will take some experiences, and I was like, it'd be a fun Rage podcast idea. Well, this one comes from my confirmation class. And
you see a decline of intellectualism.
Don't think I'm insulting my confirmation class, kids. I'm not. What I was shocked by is we finally started talking about John Wesley and kind of the Reformation and all those things. But none of them knew that like college was founded by the Christian institution. Like college,
that's true.
College and education are church things. Like those were our.
So are hospitals, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Like those were our products.
Yep.
Those are the fruits of the church's labor in the world. And they were shocked. And what I've realized in just having that conversation is we live in a culture in a certain period of world history where being knowledgeful, soaking up knowledge, not wisdom. Wisdom and knowledge are different things,
true.
okay?
Very
but
true.
Just soaking up, having a desire to learn, and not just memorize facts, but to actually learn. That's a thing that's not seen today. There's very few people I feel like are actually out here trying to learn, continually live life learning, rather than get your basis and just stop after that.
And I think you take that a step farther and say people who are faithful people, which obviously Parker and I would qualify for that, we are actually anti-thinking about things. I think that's part of the perception, which, again, we invented that.
Yeah. We
invented the idea, and yet now it's seen as kind of away from what we do, and that's too bad, because one of the things that we even started this podcast for is to give you an idea of what we're thinking. I mean, that's what we're trying to put across here. Very rare. No, I would say never. I don't know that we've ever on the Raise podcast said, all right, here's what you have to do. Here's what you have to think. Look, if you want to watch these things and disagree with us, that's fine.
And we beg for your criticism.
Yes.
And we
yes. And we wear it like a badge of honor.
Yes.
No. I said the quiet part out loud. But yeah. But the idea is that we like thinking about things. I mean, we even have a section in the Old Testament known as wisdom literature, all about thinking about the world. And it's just a very, it's a shame that we have separated, faithful and believing and thinking. They should. I mean, they're actually almost the same thing, and for some reason we have separated the two things. And I don't know why.
This goes all back to how everything in life, everyone this, we talk about this all the time on the Rage. I feel like, but when people say, "Well, my truth," and all these things, and all that new kind of way of thinking and way that we're going to start running operations and all those things, but what's missed there is the fact that the human mind is bigger than what that way of thinking makes it out to be. When you're thinking, well, my feelings tell me that I shouldn't be doing this. Well, your mind, then you put your mind in a box rather than being able to explore and understand and learn and be an intellectual in a field of study and all those things.
And once you go into that process and you start learning things and you start reading books and you start having conversations, you start having discussions, you start listening to podcasts, and you're taking all these ideas and all these things and putting them together, you're going to find that you become much more secure in your position. And whatever it is you think on a certain topic, you're going to feel better about that because you thought through it. Even if you listen to somebody you disagree with, which I will occasionally do that. There are certain podcasts out there that I know darn well that if their mouth is making noise, I'm disagreeing with that noise. So I'll listen to those, though, because that helps me think through my position. Okay, why do I think that they're wrong? Why is that not working? Because that helps me realize then why do I embrace this other side? And I think that's a good part of growth. Yeah, there may be certain bad influences that you don't want to expose yourself to. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to have a wide range of experiences, a wide range of things that you learn, and then be able to say, all right, I take this one and I leave that one. And I think that's growth. I have a lot of stuff today that I'm going to leave that I would have absolutely taken 20 years ago. And probably 20 years from now, I may feel differently about some things. Who knows? But it's all because of the experiences and how I process and thought through these issues that helped me come to either the way my mind is made up today or what my mind is made up about tomorrow.
And I started it off, talking about how the church created college and higher education
for that purpose,
and for that purpose. And now, what I'm not saying is that everyone's got to go to college if you want to do all these things. Absolutely not, because I believe that
college
this
is great,
something,
but it's not for everybody.
But it's not for everybody. But but the fact of simply having a desire to continue to learn takes many forms, and it's not just going and saying, well, I'm going to go to college and all these other things. And I say that only because I'm in the crossroads of where I am going to college, and there's some people beside me who aren't, and all those other things in life, and I understand, but that we live in the day and age where I have all of the information literally in the world in my pocket.
Yeah,
I have all of it. Every last drop of it. If it's out there, it's on Google. I can find it on Google. I can learn how to do anything under the sun through a YouTube video. We have it all, but we have this great source, yet none of us have the desire to actually lock on and really use it for its very valuable intended purposes.
Yeah, because and this is the distinction you made a few minutes ago, was it's knowledge, but it's not wisdom. It's practical, but it's not necessarily application.
Yeah,
and I think that in the midst of the conversation and how we're taking all these things, we're afraid to use it. I think we're afraid to apply it, and that leads to a lack of thinking, and a lack of thinking leads to a lack of growing, and then all of a sudden. You're the same person you were years ago. Once in a while, when you're my age, you're too young to have done this, but when you're my age, you'll occasionally meet somebody you knew years prior to this. And I'll tell you, one of the saddest experiences that you'll have when you get to be I'm 47, when you get to be my age, is when you meet somebody you went to high school with, and you start to reminisce with them, and you suddenly realize they're the exact same person you knew them as 20 years ago, or in my case, 30 years ago. That's a sad moment. In 30 years, they haven't changed their mind on anything. There's nothing different about them. And that's a sad thing. Because, and I'm not saying it's sad that, you should just give up everything. No, I'm not saying that. What I mean is that they haven't had any experiences. They haven't had any growth. They haven't had any new ways of thinking. That makes them different today. Maybe not in their bedrock beliefs, but in anything, and they're still doing the same dumb crap we all did in high school. I just feel like that's a shame, because we as humans, God created us with a desire to learn. We sometimes suppress that, but we have a desire to learn and grow, and God designed us that way. He gave us brains that will do that, so that we can learn complex things, and not to utilize that to the best of our ability by opening our minds and trying to learn and read and grow is a waste of our potential. Too bad.
But as I was saying a little bit earlier in the episode, I mentioned how it's not every path is of college, but let's look at most of you out there high school level based education. I'm assuming most of the population in America graduates from high school, and I am in any of the fields that I am looking at for occupation. I am not going to need to know how to find the angle in a triangle, the Pythagorean theorem. I'm not going to need that. However, it's knowledge, and it's never a bad thing to not have knowledge, and not some secretive knowledge. The knowledge that's out there, the knowledge that is free for the taking. I might not I will probably never use that again when I'm out of high school or out of college. I'll say. But I know it, and because I know that, then I can use it uses complex skills, and now I have a great analogy in my head.
Theorem: a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the first time in 30 years I've ever thought of that.
Yeah.
It's this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so like all those things exist, and like most of them are taught to everyone who gets up to the high school level education. All those things. A lot of people don't.
And I'm 47, telling you this is the first time I've ever used that. So yeah.
So again, but like I'm now like I can use it. Like I've noticed when I like give a sermon or in the Rage alone, I'll take things like those as an analogy to explain. But if we don't teach, if we don't learn, if we don't like grasp those concepts and take our level of education, not just like high school, but like actually educating ourselves seriously, well then you miss the loop on so many things.
Yes, okay, you're absolutely right. Our frame of reference becomes very small. Parker and I have a very high level of communication because we have very similar experiences and we're working in the same field and different things. So you know, conversations that he and I have off camera, probably a lot of people would watch us talking and think there's something wrong with us because we have a frame of reference that we can talk about. A lot of which revolves around the Babylon Bee, but that's a whole other thing. But the idea is, at the end of the day, it's very hard to have these conversations without that frame of reference.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, go with a random guy on the street and start making Babylon Bee jokes that he's going to get because there's no frame of reference there. But I can send Parker a meme I find on the internet. He and I can crack up at it because we get it. Yeah.
But what's important to know is and this is trying to find the difference between bragging about your intelligence and just being able to show how useful it is to have one. Okay.
Yes, big difference.
There's a big difference.
Necessary difference.
For me, if you watch The Simpsons, if you watch Family Guy or any of those cartoon things or whatnots, they are full of references.
Meta references, yes.
Yeah.
All
so
over the place.
I remember watching an episode of The Simpsons, and it was Edgar Allan's poem, The Raven.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
quote the Raven, nevermore. And he got in this trance where all he could say was nevermore, nevermore. And, it was funny. But if you had no clue what that was,
it'd be a weird cartoon.
You were like, this is the dumbest thing ever. It happens all the time in the church though too, and that's when I can bring up some jokes or use an analogy in scripture to Tim because Tim knows everything.
Well, hold on now.
But
there's one thing I don't know.
But if I go to say the kids at my confirmation class or the kids that Jess has downstairs, they're yet to learn, and I hope they have the desire to want to learn.
Yeah.
So even the form of conversation with day to day and
think about it in pop culture references. I mean, a lot of pop culture references that Parker gets, I'm not going to get because I'm not from his generation. And a lot of stuff that I'm going to crack up at, he's going to think I lost my mind because, again, that frame of reference isn't there. And so the best way this is a good play. The best way that we can find to come together then is to all of us, me, Parker, you, expand your area that you know about. That will expand the references that you get, and it will increase the communication we can have because our frame of reference has grown. But if it doesn't grow, you end up being 47 and being that idiot from high school that we all knew.
And so when I go down on Sunday mornings or on Wednesday nights and I talk to the kids downstairs that Jess has, okay, they're the primary age kids, okay, and I'm sure if you're a parent or anything, kids that age don't understand a whole lot of sarcasm. Okay, that's a high level of communication. That's something that they don't understand. But when there's the kids that do, they're cracking up. They're having a good time with you because they understand that process. So if you don't show your kids some sarcasm every once in a while, well then...
Well, you're not parenting right for one thing, but yes.
But I'm saying this because in college, I already kind of know some of the foreshadowing because of what I'm going to be educated on about when I go to be a early childhood teacher. They say, well, don't use sarcasm in your classroom. And I was like, if I use sarcasm, I'm going to teach the kids how to have a higher level of conversation.
Yeah, how are they going to learn
communication.
if we don't expose them to it? Exactly.
I was like, I remember when I was a kid, and I would be the only one who understood what the teacher said for something because, it just worked. And I'm not saying that to show off. I'm just saying that was a value to me, and I'm sure it'll be a value to many more people.
And if we don't expose ourselves to new things, those frame of references never grow. So if you don't learn sarcasm, or you don't learn pop culture references, or you don't learn who Edgar Allan Poe is and The Raven and all this stuff, there's a lot of stuff you're going to lose out on. And that's a very interesting point I had never thought about before. Is if you want to talk about breaking down, walls between us and improving communication and improving relations, whether it be race, gender, economic class, whatever it is, the best thing we could all do is do the best that we can to make a conscious effort to expand our area of influence, so that, you know, when we make a frame of reference, we get it. Because without that, you can't communicate. And the larger your frame of reference, the better communication you're going to enjoy across any barriers. And to never allow your eyes to be opened to that larger frame of reference is going to limit what communication you can have, and relationships suffer and everything.
But like that's like the level of conversation grows, and there's some people my age who still don't get sarcasm, you know, and all that whole way of thinking, and you know, it's like, how, you know, where did they get, you know, they got missed somewhere, so now they're not understanding that I'm just joking.
Or yes, that's true. Or they're not making an effort to understand.
Yes.
You know, and you do. It takes a little effort to expand your frame of reference.
But like, and I know this just because of Tim mentions this a lot, but like some of the things and things that he would say when he was in high school are not acceptable today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be so canceled.
However, like, you cannot deny the fact that your generation talked that way.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and now my generation, we talk that way, but we don't do it in front of a camera. Okay,
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, because now, you know, we're gonna be beheaded if we do such a thing. But like, you know, like, that is a way of communication when you understand that Tim's just making a joke.
Yeah.
Like Tim's just using a form of communication within a certain group of people. Okay, like that's no harm. Tim is no threat. What he is just communicating.
Yeah. Like, so I guess what you're getting to is cancel culture is what makes us afraid to expand that frame of reference, and once we don't understand, or we're afraid of,
I'd say cancel culture is the result of that, actually.
Yeah. What? Say more.
So right now, like, say, like, I know when you say, if you were to say something like that in front of me, I was like, okay, Tim's not going to like be a threat. Tim's we're just communicating, okay? Like, obviously, like, we can say threatening words. I could say a threat to someone, and like, you know, a threat like, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Oh no, actually, we did it earlier. We were talking about how many people were gonna come to the Ash Wednesday service, and I said, if we don't go over 60, I'm gonna fire Parker. He knows darn well I'm not gonna fire him for that.
Like, so like that's a form of communication.
Yeah.
But like, say I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Well, guess what I'm gonna do to Tim? I'm gonna get Tim canceled.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's how it works.
Yeah.
It's like the people who don't understand the like intellectual thought,
or won't even allow that something else besides what I think is happening might be going on.
And the higher education, you understand that actually sometimes the higher level of conversation you have. And I'm not going to say, like, you know, like Tim said, well, then Parker, you're fired. Like, you might not think that is a high intellectual conversation, but the fact that I can take it and understand that he's joking, and the fact that he can say it and know that I'm going to take it in that way, that is such an intense level of conversation.
Well, it shows the relationship that you and I have.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people fall down is we don't allow for the relationship. We just want to blow everything out of context and then be offended by it, and that limits your frame of reference, and that's the death of intellectualism.
Like, I mean, like, that's what's happening. Like, say, go back to when the U.S. had slaves. We don't have them anymore.
Right.
We're you know, we have moved on. We had the civil rights movement.
Right.
We have all those things. However, have a person who reads about, who studies that, yet doesn't look at where we're at today. Well, now all white people have to face the punishment because, you know, like, that's so, like,
the frame of reference is too small.
The frame of reference is too small. So when I say that, what is the flame of cancel culture is the fact that unintellectualism has died.
Yes.
And
I see what you're talking about.
And you cannot have like that. It is the product of unintellectual in conversation, in study, in field of study, and all those things is what is cancel culture.
Yeah. There's two pieces to that. Either nothing outside of my frame of reference is allowed, or anything that I categorize as being bad within my frame of reference is also not allowed.
Yeah.
And that's the death of intellectualism.
Yes.
And you are 100% correct.
So, like, what's being said, and, like, when we say being an intellectual, like, just be open to learning about some stuff. Like, I know I'm never going to be an astronaut. I know I'm never going to be, like, around the atmosphere talking about stars. But, like, my dad still taught me what, like, the constellations are. Like, I still know what, like, you know, like, that's just cool to know about. You know, like, that's just information. Why do I have that?
Frame of reference.
Why do I have that? Because I mean, conversation's the biggest benefit, but now I can be like, hey, kid, you see what that is? Like, you know, like, and then, like, you just pass those weird things that really are useless knowledge, but, like, knowledge that
But it broadens your horizons.
Yes.
And by broadening your horizons, you're making your frame of reference wider, and that helps with communication. You know, you'll learn something, and 10 years, 20 years later, that will become relevant in a conversation you're having. In my age, it happens to me all the time. Someone's like, yeah, I remember learning about that. Say, the Pythagorean theorem. I haven't thought about that in 30 years, yet we just made a reference that now I'm in on because I learned about that.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how those things come along and how that expands our minds. And by expanding our mind, our frame of reference increases, and that increases communication. Parker and I wouldn't have the level of communication that we have if we didn't have these frame of reference growing experiences. So,
like, join any work atmosphere, any club, any organization. One of the things I'm sure you're going to hear in being a part of those things, communication's key. Well,
and it absolutely is.
In every aspect of life, being able to communicate with a person where you're not coming off as some crazy person and all those other things, like, those are important in life, and that starts by broadening your horizons, becoming that. Looking in at some of that intellectual thought.
And that takes work.
Yes,
it doesn't happen on its own. So I guess that's our challenge to you as we're wrapping up here today on the Race Podcast is don't be afraid of the work. Don't be afraid to let your worldview be pushed and allow things that, to take in things that you don't necessarily agree with. And that's fine. Push them out. I don't agree with those things. But at the same time, that will allow your frame of reference to grow. And that just makes communication so much more effective.
Yes.
And, so don't be afraid to be pushed.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself to grow, learn something new, and allow that to inform your worldview. Again, even to inform yourself by saying I disagree with that, fine. That's still growth, and that still gives you a wider frame of reference, which will do nothing but help you out in the long run.
Yep.
So, all right, guys, do the work, and we'll see you next week.